G'day guys and gal. People die all the time in 40k. After all, it's not called Cuddlehammer. People die so much that even the people who technically cannot die still manage to die. These supposedly immortal and invulnerable individuals are called the Perpetuals, a collection of men and women who were either born like this naturally or who became a Perpetual through the intervention of wildly overpowered Xenos. Being a Perpetual isn't just about living for a long time and being able to walk off a nuclear strike. Many Perpetuals also have other abilities, such as being able to turn into like a hectic monster or conquer the galaxy. Yes, the Emperor is a Perpetual. So with all their power, immortality, and durability, why is every Perpetual in the setting either dead, extremely crippled, or missing? That's what we'll answer in the next 10 minutes or so. Before we get started, you beautiful greasy bastards, the stereotype of what a Warhammer fan looks like is not a pretty one, but that doesn't mean we can't change it. With the help of today's longtime sponsor Geology, you can get your skin looking real good. Your acne, blotchy, oily, or dry skin aren't just the result of bad genetics. Using skincare, you can genuinely treat or even fix most of those issues. My main issues were oily and blotchy skin with dark circles under the eyes. You can literally see it in this video here. However, since I've been using Geology for over a year now, you can see how much it actually has improved. What sets Geology apart is that it knows that we men, especially we Warhammer men, are not skincare wizards. We don't know what to put where and when. So Geology gets us to simply fill out an online form, then bam, a custom skincare routine is sent to you with easy to follow instructions. If you don't have a skincare routine but have now been made aware of their benefits, then I'll be honest, you're a bit of an idiot if you don't at least try it. So to get your first trial package for 70% off, then use link and code Majorkill70 or scan the QR code on screen. To add even more spice to the pot, this will also give you access to a bonus offer on one of their other products. Cheers to Geology for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over the Perpetuals, highlighting their abilities, how each Perpetual came to be, and what has happened to them. Let's get into it. Not every Perpetual is equal. Although they all share the common trait of immortality and regeneration, some are less immortal and invulnerable than others. There are two types of Perpetuals. The first are the natural born, who are generally the more powerful Perpetuals, who were all seemingly born around a similar time during ancient Earth. It's unclear what triggered their births, as even the Perpetuals themselves don't know. It's also unclear why no more Perpetuals have been born, despite the fact that humanity's population has increased by 1,000,000 billion fold. These natural born Perpetuals often had a wild power. Urda was able to transform into a mythological deity, whilst the Emperor is the greatest psyker to ever live. The second type are the Perpetuals who have been created or edited artificially, either by the Emperor or an advanced conclave of aliens called the Cabal. The Cabal would approach talented humans and offer them the chance to become immortal in exchange for serving the Cabal as an agent. John Grammaticus is the most well-known of these, and whilst they are still Perpetuals, they are nowhere near as powerful as the natural born, except maybe Vulcan, but his power comes from his massive biceps and Primarch status rather than his perpetualness. These Cabal Perpetuals are basically just immortal agents who are super hard to kill. Regardless, ancient Earth now had a small but influential group of low-key gods. The Emperor, the greatest of the Perpetuals, wanted to find and collect the other natural-born Perpetuals and form a hectic boy band. He wanted them to be the rulers and guides of humanity to bring an age of enlightenment and evolution to mankind. However, almost all Perpetuals are extremely up themselves and egotistical. After all, Urda literally called herself a Homo superior, not in like a dominant gay way, but as a step up from Homo sapien. So now you've got a bunch of 5-star chefs all trying to cook from the same pot. On top of that, the Emperor was a super hectic dude with extreme ambition. It put off a lot of the Perpetuals, and one by one, they abandoned him, with a few that left him even setting up their own kingdoms and armies and literally waging war against the Emperor. The only Perpetuals that remained by his side throughout the eons was Urda and Malkador. However, the Emperor still held a lot of respect for Alanus Pius, even though Alanus did stab him once when the Emperor wanted to keep a heretical chaos library intact in order to study, whilst Alanus wanted to destroy it. For the other Perpetuals, it's not entirely clear what happened. Did they go into hiding when the Emperor beat them? Did he find a way to kill them? Are they locked away in the dark cells? I would assume they were exiled, as the Emperor had a soft spot for the Perpetuals and would often let them leave him without retribution. After all, when Urda eventually abandoned him, as well as fucked up his Primarch project, he left her in peace despite knowing where she was, and then, as I mentioned, he forgave Alanis for stabbing him. After all, the Primarch project wasn't the Emperor's original dream. He wanted the Perpetuals to be his generals. The Primarchs were a plan B. As the Perpetuals left him, the Emperor realized that plan A just wasn't going to happen anymore. So using his own brilliance, a shady deal with the Warp, and DNA combined with that of Erda, he was able to make 21 demigod sons. It's likely that the betrayal of the Perpetuals and their subsequent abandonment is what made the Emperor very cold and ruthless. So what happened to each of the natural-born Perpetuals? Well, out of the ones we know, the Emperor is currently acting as the galaxy's most potent lithium battery due to his bold son's insecurities, resulting in them selling their souls to hell and ruining everything. Like I said, the Primarchs were plan B for a reason. His perpetual power is what is keeping him somewhat alive, as his body regenerates and decays at an equal rate. Also, as a sub-note, I believe that the Emperor is such a powerful psyker not just because of his mind and soul, but because his body is able to weather the effects of overwhelming psychic power. If a psyker is to go all out, it's not that they hit a ceiling with their power, but they will often lose control and explode, die, or mutate. However, with a regenerating body, they would be able to weather these obscene displays of psychic power. Anyone that has read the Thousand Sons Horus Heresy book and remembers the Battle of Prospero will recall how retardedly overpowered the Thousand Sons were, as they unleashed their complete psychic potential, only for them to then mutate into Chaos Spawn or literally explode from overcharging. After leaving the Emperor, Erda went into exile for many years, living a simple life away from everything with the company of a few servants and a Space Marine, who was actually one of the first Space Marine ever made, until she was approached by a fellow Perpetual, John Grammaticus, about accessing the Imperial Palace. Erda wasn't able to help much, but gave them her Space Marine to help. Erebus later came to her and demanded she join Chaos. She told him to eat a fucking dick, so he summoned forth 4 greater demons, one from each god, to fight her. In turn, she went all fucking anime mode and killed all 4 demons. However, the ordeal had weakened her to a point where Erebus was then able to stab her with a special Chaos knife, similar to the one that wounded Horus and permanently killed her. Malcador was another natural-born Perpetual and the only one to never actually abandon the Emperor. Malcador wasn't an idiot. He knew the Emperor was a hectic man and that a lot of what he wasn't good. However, Malcador also knew that there was no stopping the Big E, so by joining him as his second in command, he could influence the Emperor's realm and make it better. Hence, that is what Malcador did, acting as the Emperor's CEO of the Imperium of Mankind. Malcador didn't really have much in the way of special powers beyond being a very, very powerful psyker. However, he was very durable, able to cop a backhand from Lorgar, a hit that would instantly kill any other mortal man, and was launched like 20 meters. He simply got up and dusted off his robes as his broken bones reattached themselves. When the Emperor had to get up and face Horus, he needed Malcador to sit on the Golden Throne while he did so in order to keep the Webway Gate shut. As Malcador wasn't strong enough, the Golden Throne drained his essence and brought him to the brink of death. With the small life he had left, he gave it to the Emperor to help save the Emperor's life, turning to dust as he did so. When I say that Malcador wasn't the only Perpetual that didn't abandon the Emperor, that isn't entirely true. Aliva Soreka remained loyal, however the Emperor kind of abandoned her. See, when the Emperor went to Molech with his Perpetuals, who at the time were still vibing with him, in order to gain more power, he left Aliva to watch over Molech and to protect the Warp Gate so that no one else could harness the same power. However, with no one really knowing about the Warp Gate or anyone attacking Molech, combined with a real garrison getting put on the world during the Great Crusade, she became a bit redundant and settled down on the planet, living with different people and getting laid. What a queen. However, when Horus went full jihadist mode and wanted to attack Molech to try and take the same power the Emperor had, she attempted to sacrifice her perpetual power to seal the gate permanently. However, just before she could, Horus interrupted her and impaled her on his claw. But you know, perpetual and all that, so she walked it off and made her way to Terra. Malcador found her and they both spoke with Magnus the Red, whom Malcador and the Emperor wanted to bring back into the fold of the Loyalists. However, the unstable Magnus lost his shit, turbo fucked Malcador with a massive psychic blast, and Aliva was shot with a bolt gun. After she regenerated, she found Malcador's charred corpse, which wasn't regenerating due to the nature of Magnus's attack. Hence, she transferred her perpetual essence to Malcador, bringing him back to life but dying in the process. Man, for supposedly unkillable people, the Perpetuals sure fucking die a lot. Then there was Alanis Person, a man whom the Emperor deeply respected. Alanis was probably the only non-ambitious egomaniac Perpetual, and once he left the Emperor's side, he wanted a humble life. After all, he was actually older than the Emperor. Ollie was a devout Catholic, and he was also a steadfast warrior, taking part in the World Wars and many others in Old Earth. During the Great Crusade, he signed up to become an Imperial Army soldier, and was able to honorably retire to Ultramar after a long and distinguished career, he became a humble farmer and continued to practice his Catholic religion, the only man in the galaxy to do so. Ollie was also an agent of the Cabal, as their purpose was to fight chaos and preserve the galaxy, two things Ollie vibed with. When shit got hectic during the heresy, he started working with John Grammaticus to reach Terra. It's not known what will happen. In old lore, it was Alanus who sacrificed himself to save the Emperor, thus immortalizing himself in the Imperial cult, but it's unclear if this will be his final fate. Either way, I do believe he will die at the end of the heresy. The final natural-born Perpetual is a bit of an interesting case, as he has been the only natural-born Perpetual that we know of for over 40,000 years, the Grey Knight Anval Thorn. Anval was already a legendary Grey Knight before his first death and revelation of being a Perpetual. He has banished numerous heavy hitters, such as Kugath, and he helped beat Inkari. Inkari was actually the first one to kill him. Since then, he has died numerous times, always returning to full life soon after. He is a legend within the Grey Knights, and even the Eldar revere him. However, he also may have been retconned. In earlier lore, he was set up as this serious character, amongst the likes of Dante and Manius Calgar. However, in more recent lore, he doesn't get mentioned much, and recent codexes that do speak of him don't mention his Perpetual status, just that he was killed by Inkari. So it's unclear if he's still a badass Perpetual, or if GW wanted to make natural-born Perpetuals more special and extinct, so they killed him off. Now for the non-natural-born Perpetuals, I'll discuss their status, but also how they became Perpetuals in the first place. First is Primarch Vulcan. A Primarch with Perpetual powers is a sight to behold, an unkillable god of war, something that can only ever be contained, never destroyed. So whilst he was born as a Perpetual, he's about as natty as Liver King. Unlike a lot of other Perpetuals, Vulcan was super hard to kill. Magnus used a more advanced version of the psychic attack that he killed Malkador with, and Vulcan was able to weather it, kill Magnus, and then regenerate. He was also Conrad Curse's prisoner for a while, as the Primarch of the Night Lords killed Vulcan over and over again, but never been able to truly put him down. Even when Vulcan was stabbed with a Fulgrite, which is a crystal formed from the Emperor's psychic might, which is supposed to be the only thing that can actually kill a Perpetual, he was able to come back to life. But to be fair, he needed the help from another Perpetual. Vulcan was last seen tackling a massive orc into a vat of pure Wa energy, likely atomizing himself. It's unclear if this was his true death or if he regenerated and went into exile. However, Vulcan has said that upon the Salamanders retrieving all the artifacts of Vulcan, he will return. The Cabal, a collection of psychically powered alien races, were able to create Perpetuals. John Grammaticus, Daemon Parantis, and a few others were examples of this. While they did enjoy immortality and regeneration, they weren't particularly powerful, with John once fighting a Lucifer Black and barely surviving despite his centuries of experience. John was by far the most impactful of these agents, and he did some galaxy-altering stuff, like being the one to reach the Alpha Legion and bring them over to the traitor's cause. This is because the Cabal wanted Horus to win due to a prophecy which stated that if Horus won, humanity would die and take chaos with it, leaving the galaxy pure for the Xeno races to rise again. Eventually, John is like, fuck this, as he was sick of betraying his own race after the Cabal wanted John to kill Vulcan with the Fulgrite. John instead used the Fulgrite combined with his own Perpetual essence to cure Vulcan of his insanity as a result of all the pain and death he had experienced, leaving John as a mortal man. John's final fate is not yet known, but right now he is working with Eldrad and Alanis Pearson to save the Imperium. The other known Cabal agent was Daemon Parantis, who was much more loyal to the Cabal. He worked with John until John went rogue. At that point, Daemon imprisoned him and wanted to force him to work for the Cabal. However, Eldrad found them and killed Daemon with the Fulgrite, been the first and only time the Perpetual killing weapon actually killed a Perpetual. The Emperor was also able to make Perpetuals, but in a bit of a different way. In order to keep the Void Dragon locked under Mars, the Emperor would bestow a small sliver of his power to a certain individual. First it was Semyon, but then later it went to Dahlia Sithera. This sliver gave them immortality and technically made them a Perpetual. However, every few thousand years, the Guardian chooses to die and give their perpetuality to another, so it's not really the best version of it. Now for the two random ones, we have the Emperor's children Astartes Modrak, who was granted perpetual powers and then became an unwilling test dummy for Fabius Bile. After all, what better test subject than one that comes back to life after each failed experiment? Modrak still probably lives. The last time we saw him, he got turned to dust, but this usually isn't a huge deal for a perpetual. We also have Cyrene Volantion, who was resurrected as a part of a chaos ritual and was inadvertently given perpetual powers as a result. Probably the most random example of it. She would go on to eventually leave the Wordbearers, with her current fate is unknown. So from this, we ask the question, then, what the fuck does it take to actually kill a Perpetual? Well, it really does depend on the Perpetual. Vulcan was able to weather Magnus's Perpetual killing sorcery, whilst Malcador was not. Erdo was killed by a Chaos Knife that wasn't known as a Perpetual killer. Daemon was killed by the Fulgurite. It seems like any weapon that attacks a Perpetual's soul or life essence rather than their physical body can actually kill them. Stuff like the Golden Throne, for example. Either way, the true Perpetuals are more or less extinct, with the Emperor being the only kind of alive one and Anval Thorn potentially not even being canon anymore. Either way, they're a super interesting bit of 40k lore, and I hope you enjoyed learning more about them. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up a Major Mini. We have just launched the Orc Demon Killer, which, yes, it's him. So get it while it's hot. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more Immortal content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.